There are so many great Democrats who are unapologetic and unafraid in the way that they call out Donald Trump. But the one who really stands out the most is the biggest thorn in Trump's side is AOC, someone who has led his immigration czar, Tom Homan, to threaten her with a deportation or criminal investigation simply for telling her constituents their rights against the deportation goons Donald Trump is sending into New York City. And in the latest example of infuriating Trump and the rest of MAGA, has Alina Habba melting down, especially because AOC shut her up live on air in a beautiful takedown that we are going to check out. But before we do, if I could quickly ask you to leave a like on this video, and if you haven't already and you enjoy our channel, to hit that subscribe button. It goes a long way and it really does mean a lot to me. Now, before we can get into that great takedown from AOC that you're going to want to check out, I want to see where this started with just a really weird criticism from Alina Habba.
That's the same party that lost in an astronomical way on November 5th because they are out of touch with the American people. We don't want it. It's no different than the protesters that came into Trump Tower and thought they were making a point and then got arrested. You're wasting your time. Get on board with America, cut the crap, and move on. We want to save this country, want to make the economy better, and President Trump has done that in less than 2 months. They got to be with us. It's enough.
I don't see a path based on what this party has evolved into. I really don't see a path for them.
It's true.
I mean, Jasmine Crockett and AOC and the squad seem to be leading the intellectual thought of the Democratic Party.
What intellectual thought, Sean? The last I saw, they're dancing down the halls of Congress. I've never seen anything like this. I'm watching TikToks. Crazy things. They're singing, they're dancing, they're holding beers.
Well,
and
you didn't see me, but
I never saw anything like this.
I was doing, quote, the intellectual side of the party. And I love when AOC lectures Elon Musk about not being intelligent. I'm like, oh, she's such a genius. You know, I'm inspired by her every word.
You were in the bar. You were in a bar.
Yeah.
You were in a bar, AOC.
Well, that's the only thing she and I have in common.
To serve one.
So first of all, I don't know why the worst lawyer in America, someone in Alina Habba, who became famous in MAGA world for just helping Donald Trump lose his cases and like have greater gag orders imposed upon him. She was a historic loser. That is all she did. So I don't know where she thinks that she gets the justification for talking about who is intellectual and who is leading the Democratic Party. Jasmine Crockett was actually a successful lawyer. AOC has accomplished more in her life than Alina Habba could have ever dreamed of. So let's start there. But the criticism, like the looking down upon someone for being a bartender, are you like that's a bad thing? MAGA claims to be the party of the working class, but at the same time, they elected the guy who sits on a gold toilet and hangs out with his billionaire buddies, and they claim that that's populism because Donald Trump, fearmongers against immigration and trans people? It's absolutely ridiculous. But it's not the only ridiculous thing that we saw from Alina Habba lately. So before we get into AOC, I just have to check this out because it is so ridiculous for the current moment.
No, not even allowing a person due process, the right to go sit in front of the Supreme Court and hear a case that determines many lawsuits that are currently against President Trump on immunity, on grounds for immunity. Let's not forget something here, Sean. President Trump was in Washington when this case was going on. When this is happening, when somebody made a notation in an accounting record at Trump Organization, he was in Washington taking care of this country.
So I wanted to play that clip of Alina Habba from back in 2024 because it provides good context to what AOC called her out for in the clip that we're going to check out. But keep in mind, Donald Trump is currently throwing people in jail, detaining them, putting them on planes, and shipping them to foreign prisons without due process. And Alina Habba says the guy who has benefited most from a two-tiered system of justice, a broken justice system in America, back in 2024, not just a year ago, he was being deprived of his due process because the Supreme Court hadn't yet heard a small part of one of his many legal cases. It's absolute nonsense the way that that MAGA has changed their tune on what is and what isn't lawful as they completely abandon checks and balances and disregard the judiciary. And it is the reason AOC delivered such a brutal call-out, name-checking Alina Habba and shutting her down right here.
For all the big talk that Republicans Republicans and the Trump administration like to flap about working people. If you actually listen carefully, every once in a while they let the mask slip about what they actually think about us. You know, just last week, President Trump's lawyer, her name is Alina Habba, she went on television, and when she actually had to be faced with explaining her job, and when she actually had to be faced with doing her job, this is what she had to say. Quote, what intellectual thought, when she was asked about me, quote, what intellectual thought? You were in a bar, AOC, and not to have a drink, but to serve one. And I want you all to understand, I don't care what this woman says about me, but I want you to understand that she isn't just talking about me here. She's talking about you. She is talking about all of us. Because the entire job of the president's lawyer is to speak for him. Trump hired her to speak for him. So imagine what it means for our country that the president's own lawyer cannot even conceive of a working class person being intelligent simply because of the job that they have. This woman could not even recognize the American dream if it was fed to her on a silver spoon. But understand that this kind of disdain for working people by the most powerful people in this country doesn't just come from not being raised right. It's a shorthand for Elon Musk and Donald Trump's entire political agenda and a certain ugly kind of politics, lying to and screwing over working people so that they can steal from our health care and Social Security and veterans care to pay for tax cuts for the wealthiest and bailouts for their crypto billionaire friends. There's a word for this: corruption.
Alina Habba truly is one of the most despicable and, guys, let's be real. Can we be real here? Dumb members of the Trump administration. At this point, I don't really know what her job is. She's just another person to go on TV, push a false narrative, and lie on behalf of Donald Trump. Her job certainly has nothing to do with her legal expertise, which is lacking. I do think she is some form of advisor to Donald Trump, but I guess when you don't have a lot going on right there in terms of Trump, you can just surround yourself with other stupid people who are yes men, or I guess yes women in Alina Habba's case. But AOC is certainly going to keep calling it out, which is what we saw more of as she has been on the road with Bernie Sanders. And I want to take a look at some of that right here.
Who feel called and compelled. Thank you. Welcome. Welcome. And I want to be the first to say, I don't care who you voted for in the past. You may have voted for Donald Trump in the past. You may have voted for Kamala Harris in the past. You may have not voted at all in the past. I want you to know that, but you are here, regardless of all of that. You are here today. And I want to thank you for that. In fact, we're all here together because we share in the frustration and the heartache that comes from watching those in power actively tear down or refuse to fight for everyday working Americans like us. And we are here together because an extreme concentration of power and corruption is taking over this country like never before. But we are also here today because we know that a better world is possible. But to get there, we need to be honest about where we are. Because we are witnessing an oligarchy in America. And that is when those with the most economic, political, and technological power destroy the public good to enrich themselves while millions of Americans pay the price. And we are at a point where the wealthiest people in the world, like Elon Musk, and all the Republicans enabling him, are turning to loot what is left of Medicaid, Medicare, and Social Security to bankroll even deeper tax cuts and sweetheart contracts for themselves, their fellow billionaires, and their corporations. And our political system right now is ill-prepared for this abuse of power. In fact, our political system enables it, starting with the role of money in politics. But I am here to remind you that we are not powerless in this moment. People are starting to put the pieces together. And ironically, the most divisive forces in our country are actually starting to bring more of us together. And that is important because the billionaire and the elite class derives their power from dividing working people apart along lines of left or right, race and gender, creed and culture. They will throw every label and judgment and cultural debate at us in the book to keep us distracted and from realizing that the only division that is truly hurting our country the most is the endless greed by those at the very, very top at the cost of everyone else. And that is why it has always been up to us, the working class of America. Our power comes from remaining focused, together, and building a movement where there is a place for everyone.
This is how we have to message back against the most dangerous, despicable, and downright dumb administration in history. We have to bring the fight, and AOC said it just last night. We need Democrats who are fighters. We need Democrats who are brawlers. I said this on Twitter. The real Democratic Party right now is the elected officials who care less about norms, who don't care about the norms, who don't care about the niceties, who are focused on fighting back against the fascists. I'm tired of people sitting on their hands, twiddling their thumbs, and saying, well, I don't know, what leverage do we have? We have our voices. We have power still. We have agency. Fight back. Do what AOC is doing. Be like Bernie. Be like Chris Murphy or Jasmine Crockett. That's what I want to see out of elected Democrats. That's what we're going to call for on the show. And if you want to support that, as always, you can hit that subscribe button. You can leave a like on this video. And if you stuck around to the end, you can drop a blue heart in the comments. And until next time, I'll see you soon.